We tried to be a normal talk show once. Worst 2 minutes of our lives. The Kate Daly Show starts now.
Patients could last at least a month.
We projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that.
To our other top story now, more missile strikes on Iran as the U.S. and Israel hit thousands of targets, continuing their joint campaign after a successful operation to kill the country's supreme leader this weekend. New today, the U.S. Central Command now confirming 6 U.S. service members were killed in that operation. And today, the State Department is urging Americans in 14 countries in the Middle East to depart now. That includes Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, and Saudi Arabia.
We have live coverage in place. Alex Rozier is in Westwood with reaction from the Iranian community with deep ties back home. But let's.
Does Congress have to weigh in? Is the president declaring war? And does Congress have to weigh in? And was there an imminent threat? Did you tell lawmakers that there was
This is Rubio.
Absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Tonight from Washington, D.C.
Good evening from the Library of Congress, just across from the Capitol. It was a day short on answers and long on political theater here in Washington, the city consumed by the Iran-Contra scandal.
First, though, joining us this morning, a newsmaker in his own right, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, President Jimmy Carter. Is a military strike an option?
I don't think so, not at this early stage. And I don't think that anybody in the administration has maintained openly that is a present option. Every indication I've heard from Condoleezza Rice or President Bush has been, we want to resort to diplomatic means to as thoroughly as we possibly can before we would consider military strikes. So
Iran continues to defy UN Security Council demands to scrap its uranium enrichment program, but CBS News has learned of secret efforts to delay the country's nuclear agenda. Sheila McVicker asked Mark Fitzpatrick of the International Institute for Strategic Studies how that might affect Iran's nuclear ambitions.
The special report that we planned to bring you tonight was about domestic politics, the battle among the Democrats. But we think the crisis in Iran is more urgent right now than the campaign here at home.
That's a whole lot of headlines over a whole lot of decades about Iran. Very interesting stuff. Welcome to the Kate Daly Show. So glad that you are with us today. I have Dr. Duke Pesta with me. Hi, Duke.
Hello.
Hello. Also, a change that we're making to the show is it is live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I just wanted you to all know that. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And same time. And 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain. And Peter Schweitzer's new book on Thursday's show. So it'll be interesting to have a conversation with Peter again. And oh, so much. So much happened in the last 4 days. It's kind of insane. And by the way, that was Rubio talking about, they were going to hit us first if we waited. So we had to hit them. And of course, Israel making the first move and then us going in to back that. The problem with that statement is that they never have hit us. So we've had this continual threat over 50 years of us saying in the media, not us, but the media and the government saying they are going to come get us. And that hasn't happened or transpired, but it seems to be, again, the reason of the day. They're going to come get us, so we have to go in. And there's a lot of back and forth on this. So I can't wait to talk to you, Duke, and get your thoughts on this, because I'm hearing all the different sides on our right of why we had to go do this right now. The timing is awfully weird, but okay, right now we just had to go take care of this issue. And suddenly everybody is concerned about about the Iranians. And it's wild to me because we weren't concerned about it 2 months ago. And all of a sudden now we're consumed with this idea that we're freeing people. Now, the family is still in power. And so cutting off the head, I'm not quite sure what that did, but I can't wait to get your thoughts on this overall. I have very mixed thoughts on this, as you probably can imagine, and I think it's a much deeper thing happening here, as you can imagine, and 40 years of these types of headlines. But I hope to kind of bring forth a lot of info today so that we can get a better grasp in context on what's actually going on, and what part's theater, and then what part is the reality of bigger plans and agendas, as you can probably imagine as well. So Duke, let's get your take on this.
I mean, this is obviously a hugely broad issue. And I think by playing all those opening clips, you remind people of how long this has been a bugaboo. But so I'm going to take the role of what I would consider a mainstream Republican. I know that people like Megyn Kelly and certainly Tucker Carlson, they see this as a big problem. But just to give some ballast to what you're going to be talking about, the bigger picture, that's your expertise, the bigger pictures behind this. Having said that, I think this makes sense in a lot of ways, right? Okay. And I'll tell you why. This is not simply, and when you said two months ago, we weren't worried about the Iranians. We were. Last year, we actually tried to put out their nuke capacities. So we've been worried about them for a while, number one. Number two, they have told us since 1979 that we are the enemy. They have waged actual war against us. How many of our soldiers in Iraq were maimed or killed by IEDs that came from them? They are the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it's not even close. After what happened with the first bombing, the Iranians were defiant, and we have clear evidence that they are building back what they had lost. So this swings around again. So I don't see this as, all of a sudden, like the Democrats are saying, this is random. It's not random. I think that this is, over the last, month, we have been trying to negotiate with them. And when you consider the negotiations under Biden and Obama, the absolute demonstrable pathology of the mullahs is to stall, to take one step forward, seemingly to back up. And Trump realized this. Unlike Biden, he realized that this is just more BS. They're just stalling for time. That what they want to do to become to get that weapon so that they can't be challenged. And meanwhile, what the Secretary of Defense pointed out clearly is there's no doubt about it. Their ICBMs are stockpiled. They have a huge amount of them, so much so that alone is a capacity that would stretch even our reserves in some ways if we had to do something. So this is not, in my estimation, new. It's not random. This is something that we are in this position because of other presidents ignoring this or treating it as some kind of a UN issue, or in the case of Obama and Biden, sending millions of dollars and billions in some cases to these people. Just not serious. Donald Trump, you could say the same thing to some degree about Venezuela. And what's happening here is, for the first time really in my life, Reagan threatened things but didn't do them. But this is a president who is carving out global problems that no one has had the guts to deal with. I mean, whatever you think about the puppet strings and who's behind this, these mullahs are evil, murderous people who consider themselves at war with us and Israel. They want nuclear weapons so they can fulfill their warped apocalyptic, revelationary, I should say, end of times eschatology of their warped religion. And so, as with Maduro, you're taking out even the Democrats conceded, this is a guy who did not legitimately win the elections, and who is abating China and Iran, bringing that to the Western hemisphere. This, I think, was a culmination for the Donald Trump administration, but certainly for America going back to 1979, and to take the chance to do what they did now is in whatever happens, even if the worst happens, you're not going to get in a regime that's more anti-West, Western civilization. It's not going to get worse. And so this is an opportunity. And I like the fact that he says, we are not going to nation build. We're not going to stay here forever. We're not going to put boots on the ground. We're going to take this hopefully shorter than longer, and then retreat. And it's up to the Iraqis, the Iranians, to do something. So when I look at that in the broad spoke of what you showed, going all the way back in time with this, could they have hurt us immediately? Sure, in our bases, absolutely. But the mainland, probably not. Yeah. But this is a festering cancer. And if you have a chance to cut it off rather than waiting it to grow too big, then you do it. And I don't see. So I think there's logic, there's reason behind this. There is a broader vision of a safer world that I think everybody outside of China and Russia will see, that the Middle East has a chance to be a very different place without them, without those mullahs. And so so that's a long way to go. But I think that on a lot of levels, you can justify this and logically support it. There's other ways of seeing it, and I know you're going to have one, but I think that in the scope of what we've been talking about here, and even the whole constitutional question that always comes up, when Biden was when Obama was in charge, and he dropped all those bombs in places like Libya, the Republicans were screaming about Congress. And now that Donald Trump is president, the Democrats are screaming Congress. Until Congress fixes this, right? The president is given these leeways, whether or not it's constitutional. The War Powers Act is a thing. Someone has to repeal it. So the Supreme Court maybe can get rid of it. I don't know. But in the world we live in, even you could make the argument that his powers extended to doing this. So those are, I think, rational arguments. Maybe not the right ones, but that's where I would start.
Okay, let's take a caller first. Then I'll come into. Hi, caller. Go right ahead. And by the way, the call-in number is 435-680-2503. You are welcome to call in. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, greetings, Kate. It sounds like I'm hearing an echo from the conservative neocon talk shows all day long. But anyway, remember back. Let's go back further. It didn't start in 79. It started in 53 when the CIA took out Mossadegh. He was the guy that was basically great with everybody in the world. Nobody had a problem with Iran until the CIA started screwing around. That's the whole problem. Now, the concept that death to America, you know how some people say effing red light and effing this and effing that?
Yeah.
They don't mean they want to have sex with a red light. It's just a saying. So when those people say death to this, they say death to the red light.
Yeah.
Okay. They caught at a traffic light. That's what they say. It's a saying. And the concept that, well, if we don't get them, they're going to get us. I mean, why are we not at war with Russia and China and you just name anybody out there? I mean,
It sounds very similar to Iraq, to Syria, to Libya. We were told all the exact same things. Exactly.
I think Willie Nelson wrote a song with those lyrics, as a matter of fact. I mean, it's idiocracy to think that you can go in and attack a country. They don't have any ICBMs. I'm sorry. There's no proof of that. There are no ICBMs. And before they stopped the talks on the nuclear deal, they had no enriched uranium that would create a nuclear weapon. But now they do. Since Trump shut it off, now they do.
Yeah. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Yes. And remember when when President Trump, shot down, what was his name? What was his name? It just evaded me, and killed their guy. They didn't even retaliate from that one that I've seen. But anyway, this is a very, by the way, you can call up 435-680-2503. Would like to hear you voice what you think is going on and everything. These were some of the headlines. I just want to start there. The CIA this is an actual headline. The CIA helped pinpoint a gathering of Iranian leaders. Then Israel struck. And the killing of Iran's supreme leader and other top Iranian officials came after close intelligence sharing between the United States and Israel. And then, of course, Reuters, U.S.-Israeli. So it's always a dash now. I don't know if people have noticed that, but it's U.S.-Israeli. We're like a team. We're together on everything. It's constantly in the press now. And I don't know if anyone picked up on that little nuance, but strikes kill Khamenei, and Iranian retaliation shakes Gulf. Okay. And then here is a third headline that's very important, because I think this is at the root of what's happening here. Global economy is facing the prospect of another profound shock. A protracted conflict in the Middle East risks a spike in energy prices and broader inflation. So if you were to ask me, and I was to be really blunt, I would say that this move and the timing of this move is to further the problems going on here without solving them as far as the economy goes worldwide. Okay. Because everyone's asking after a year, why is the economy shite? Why are we dealing with this kind of economy still? And hardly anyone is being able to make it. And there's such uncertainty with the market. And I do feel like this is a great reason for them to say, oh, see, broader inflation, spike in energy prices. We're just so sorry you can't make it out there. We're just so sorry for that, but nothing's going to change. And when I saw that headline, it just kind of hit me between the eyes. It was like, oh, okay. So when it comes down to money, because the act of what's going on there is going to produce some food shortages, water shortages, especially in these areas that we're talking about. And then also gas prices soaring, all kinds of things that are going to make its way, obviously, and further along what's happening here in the economy. So there are a lot of things, but one thing I just wanted to mention, and I want to get your comment on this, Duke, is that we heard the exact same thing with Syria. We heard the exact same thing with Iraq, and they were going to come get us, and we had to preemptively, go in, and we had to preemptively sort of strike, and their person's a madman. Now, I get Iran. I wouldn't want to live in Iran. Okay, so I'm not saying or giving Iran compliments for how it's living. Okay, I don't think lies are being told about the nature of how people live in Iran. We still, though, do not have any legal right to be doing what we're doing. And I know people out there roll their eyes, but we don't have a legal right to do anything like this. And now we're talking about doing this with other countries too, just like we always have, but nobody ever says we can't do that. So we have the headlines as Trump wants to take Greenland, Trump wants to take Cuba, Trump wants to take this and that and this and that and this and that. Well, when are we going to say, but that's not okay? You cannot do this. It's not even legal to do this. So are they setting up this psychological sort of, game of, see, it's okay because we're doing it for the right reason. And everything is emotional right now. So it's all emotional, and it's all about freeing the people of Iran. Okay, if that is true, which I do not think that's true at all. If that's true, why didn't we do this 40, 30, 50 years ago? Why? I mean, we've had the same issues going on in Iran. That's why I said people weren't as consumed with the rights of Iranians until like this week. So as they were, before, right? So why didn't we do this so long ago and try to justify that?
I mean, going back to the caller, first of all, I think that the neocon stuff is silly. I mean, it's just silly. Every indicator suggests that this is not going to be boots on the ground. This is not going to be what we saw in Iraq or tried to do in Afghanistan. This is a different thing. But when you say this is illegal, according to who? Look, I am 100% sure that there is no such thing as international law. There's no way the UN, those hypocrites and frauds, have actually created quote unquote laws internationally. So I reject that out of hand, the whole idea of international law. But even again, we talk about what the president can do. From the perspective, and Marco Rubio pointed this out, we did what the Powers Act told us to do. Within 48 hours, we let Congress know what we're doing. You can say it's unconstitutional. I know there's probably people lurking on the phones, writing out to start screaming it's unconstitutional. Well, okay, but the Constitution we should try to get back to that, but certainly, based on what happened in 1973 with the War Powers Act, this has been used by other presidents, this kind of behavior. Things, we talked about dropping bombs under Obama. So this clearly is not going to be found illegal, not even by the Supreme Court, I don't believe. So the question is, I don't see it as illegal. In what sense is it legal? Now, you can say morally, we shouldn't have the ability to do this, or we shouldn't do this. That's a different argument, but I don't see this as illegal. Now, I repeat again what I said at the beginning. I wish we could get back to the Constitution, but we are far, far away from getting back to basic issues like that. I don't know if Congress, I don't know if with the help of the Supreme Court, could rectify this, but it's got to start with Congress doing something collectively to reassert its powers. When the Republicans control it, then the Democrats push back. When the Democrats control it, the Republicans push back. But there is never a circumstance, regardless who the president is, when the Congress comes together, unified to fix these problems. And so until that happens, the default is it is perfectly legal for the president to use his powers this way. It's unfortunate, but it's real. So I don't see the idea. Now, if what you're really trying to say is that we have no moral reason to do it, now that's a different kind of
Did he pass it through Congress to do this?
No, but that's been going on for how long?
But that doesn't make it legal. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make it legal just because he goes, well, I'm going to declare war and I'm going to war, because he's using the word war.
No, what I'm saying is that the War Powers Act, for better or for worse, I think it's worse, gives them the power. And he's not the first one to do this. That has been an acceptable thing to do, so much so that no one's ever sued. No one's ever been overthrown. It's never been thrown out by a judge. The Supreme Court has not weighed in on this. Congress hasn't fully challenged this. Since 1973, this power was given to them. And so that's what they did. Now, it is, so in that sense, it's not illegal. I don't understand the legal argument here. If you want to say that the only thing that matters is the Constitution of the United States, I believe that's true. Then we've got to get back to that in so many ways. But what happened in 1973 has not been adjudicated, has not been fixed, has not been removed. Donald Trump is not the first president to do stuff like this. It just hasn't been.
Right. But if we're going to say we're going to remove the deep state and get back to this country and how it should be, he should be the first one to say, I'm not going to do that, because the other presidents did that without Congress as well. I'm not going to do anything like that. But I'm hearing the exact opposite. That's my problem. I'm like, we're going to take this country. We want this country. We want this country. And this whole entire year, I've just been amazed at the fact that people are just like, okay. I mean, not even questioning that we don't, what right do we have to be that person out there in the field? I mean, I look at us, declaring all of these different countries and installing who we want in as the person to lead the country, right, and take out their duly elected leader, and that's not okay. And I don't understand why more Americans aren't going, well, why are we doing this, and why are we so involved in that? So I don't that part's hard for me to understand why more Americans aren't shocked by that.
Well, I like that you phrased it, what right do we have? I think that's better than what law. I think that is a much more sound argument. And I think there's two reasons for that, Kate. One is, like you said and the caller suggested, that in many ways the deep state has magnified the ability of the Iranians to do things. I think that's part of it. And I think that's part of the deep state stuff. I believe that. But the other side of it, Kate, is these are bastards. These are certified bastards. And they are, and I mean what I said, they have been waging a war against us, against Western culture, and a proxy war against us too. And that is absolutely true.
What war have they waged against us, though? I mean, are they attacking us?
Well, sure. Well, the threats of closing down the straits, how they provided and oftentimes infiltrated Iraq to put these IEDs to target American servicemen, as they did in Afghanistan too. Absolutely, that's part of this. We know that there are sleeper cells in this country right now of them. We also know in terms of
guess that's what they tell us anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah,
we don't really have any proof.
I mean, we'll see. But yes, and I think those things are real. And here's another thing. They have made it very clear from their own mouths that they seek a bomb. That is, and even the UN absolutely agrees, who does not like the Americans when it comes to this. They are more on the side of the sovereignty of the Iranians. But they too say that, yep, the way they're processing their nuclear materials has nothing to do with simply turning the lights on in the evening. This is much and way beyond that. That's absolutely a thing. And when they tell you, on top of everything else, that we will destroy you, that you are, I couldn't get past the other thing that the caller said, that somehow death to America is not a real thing. If you know the idea that the hatred for America and Israel is not real in these people, and their religion is apocalyptic. They see that kind of conflagration would benefit them, and so those are real things.
But having hatred and actually doing something like attacking us are two different things. Somebody can have hatred for us. Who cares? Who cares about that? But it's actually doing something. It's kind of like, I have a Jewish friend who was basically saying to me, well, everybody wants us dead. You know, these anti-Semites want to see, myself and my family dead. And I'm like, well, but you're not, and they're not actually doing anything to you. Right. But because of how it's perceived, it's, but they want to, so therefore they will. Well, they're not, though. So that argument, I just go, that's not, anyone can say they hate anything. It doesn't matter. But it's not the action. So have they attacked our country? Have they literally attacked us?
But here's the thing. I know I hear what you're saying there. But let me ask you, if they actually had a bomb, the Iranians, do you think they would use it?
Actually, no, because they could be wiped out in 2 seconds and they know it.
I mean, I'm not sure they knew that Trump, up until 2 days ago, Trump said, you either come to terms by giving up your nuclear ambitions or this is going to happen. And they looked him in the eye and said, no. I mean, look, after what happened last year when they used the stealth strike against them, they made it very clear, the Americans, that whether it's right or not wrong, but they put it in their faces. You're going to get rid of the nuclear program. You're going to get rid of it, or we're going to end you. And they looked right into the eyes of Trump and said, no. And so consequently, I think they would use it. I absolutely do. And here's the thing. If you wait until they have it to threaten you with it, then you can't do anything. If indeed they had one right now, we would not have been able to do a thing, because they're just crazy enough in their they knew exactly what was happening here, right? And unlike Biden or Obama, this is not Donald Trump, hate or love him, he's not playing around like these other presidents have. Maybe that's illegal. Maybe you want to call that immoral, I suppose. That's fine. But that's the craziness of the mullahs. They knew that on their doorstep was death. For the last 2 months, the buildup of ships and armor and allies is staggering. Those people, they could not have not known. And when they still looked into the face of that and said, F you, yeah, these people are insane. And so again, once they have it, think about the crazy little dictator in North Korea, Kim Un-young, right? What's his last name?
He's an asset.
Yeah, anyway, So again, it may be, but look at how he runs that country. Look at what a wasteland. I mean, I'd rather live in Iran than North Korea. And yet, because of his nuclear capacities, you can't do anything much more about it. It's over, right?
Well, it was in the news for 10 years of threatening that they were going to come and nuke us, but we could have wiped them out in 2 seconds. That's probably why that never happened.
Yeah, but we can't, because the Chinese got their back. If we took down North Korea, you think the Chinese would sit there? It's not them. You're right. We could neutrify much of what they can do, right? I get that. But the problem is not them. It's who's right next to them. And the Chinese are not going to allow that kind of carnage on their, effectively in their neighbors. Not going to do it. And so now that they are an armed nuclear power, even though it's a crazy regime, they're largely untouchable now. And can you imagine Iran in that same position? They would dominate everything that happens in the Middle East. Here's what you'd have to do. If indeed the Iranians made it to a bomb, you would have to actually give nukes to other countries in that area. You'd have to. I mean, they're that crazy. Now I'm saying morally. Does all of what I'm saying justify morally? I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. But the scenarios I'm talking about are real. And the question becomes, right, when you're telling them with a huge armada behind you that we're asking you to give up your nuclear ambitions and you can go right back to being who you are, and their response at that moment is no, that tells me everything I need to know, that they were never going to do anything else but pursue that kind of weaponry, period.
Let's take a caller again. I have a lot to say, but let's take a caller again. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Greetings. Dr. Duke, the reason that they're not giving up their weapons is they saw what happened to Libya when their leader, Muammar Gaddafi, agreed to give up his weapons. They went in and assassinated him. So they don't want to make the same mistake, because they're not dealing with normal people. The people running our government are sociopaths. There is a psychological condition that seems to be missed. These people have a desire to murder. Look, you say that if they had a nuclear weapon, they would rule the region. Right now, who's attacking all their neighbors? Israel. And who gave them the nuclear weapons? They stole them from us. And do they let the IAEA go in and examine it as Iran did? No, they don't. So there's a difference in fair play that's going on. There is no fair play with Israel. It's all about greater Israel, and that's what's going on. And that seems to be missed from this conversation. I just thought I'd bring it up.
We just haven't gotten there yet. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the call. There's a lot to be said about some ambitions for greater Israel and what's going on, and also the timing. So what did you think of the timing, Duke?
Now I'm glad the caller brought Israel into this. I understand that. I think I understand what he's saying clearly.
Well, they struck first.
But yes, but I would also point out that even more than against the United States, Tehran has been doing everything they can do possibly to harass and sponsor people like Hamas, the ones who went in and murdered all those people.
And look,
but just for kicks and giggles, just want to mention Ron Paul did stand up in Congress and lay out the proof that Israel created Hamas, their own enemy.
Sure.
So just putting that out there, because then after that he wasn't allowed back in, into Congress. But just wanted to lay that out.
So again, I mean, this is a difficult thing to talk about because there's so many levels. And I told you when we started the show, I said I wanted to hear your opinion because your opinion is unique, and you are really
and I want to hear yours. Yeah.
But and I said to you that I was going to be your foil, right? That I decided that I was going to give you a standard argument for it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not convinced by every aspect of it either of what I'm saying, but I think there is a logic, a consistency about it.
There are sides within all conservatives right now that you're either like neocon, pro-war, I don't even care who we bomb, if we're doing it, we're right. And then there's the ones that are really questioning it. And then there's people like me that say, we own Iran, but don't tell anyone. Because I think we've owned them for 50 years. Because we put Khomeini in and everything else. So, and there was a huge press campaign about that. And the New American actually did a wonderful article on that, kind of spelling out how we did a huge campaign against the Shah to put Khomeini in. But so I think we own them. So that makes the conversation much different for me. But I appreciate you bringing to the table all of the arguments being made, because if you listen to everybody, let me bring in Tom Woods' comment. Okay. I've had Tom Woods on the show. He's written a lot of books about foreign policy. Okay. And he's a libertarian. And he goes, I have people on my Facebook friend list who follow Ron Paul, but who are somehow being taken in by war propaganda. This time it's different. We have to free the Iranians. Freeing the Iranians, quote unquote, never once crosses the minds of the political class. Not once, not ever. And if they could have an Iran that was in complete chaos with massive internal discord and refugees fleeing, they would take that in a heartbeat. That you think they are trying to free the Iranians is embarrassing. These people in my feed make arguments our leaders themselves don't believe, like when some poor voters kept arguing that Saddam really had a WMDs long after Cheney and Rumsfeld had abandoned that and basically left the lie that they did have it. Okay. So we're being treated to the White House surely has information that we don't argument, as if it hasn't burned us before. And basically, I should give nice people and give the benefit of the doubt, but that's impossible after 20 years of a war on terror that has yielded the U.S. nothing but grief and being snookered into it again as an IQ test that we have failed. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I actually agree with him. So I think
here's my thing. I think that is standard. I think there's a lot of truth to that, going back about Americans' behavior. One of the first caller, going all the way back to the 1950s. I get that. However, unlike you, I don't think that Donald Trump is completely co-opted and owned by the deep state. I know you believe that.
Yeah, that's where we actually don't agree. We agree on a lot of things, but that's where we don't agree at all. I think he was brought in by the deep state.
Right. I do not yet believe that. And so the one thing I would say to what Tom Wood says is that I think Donald Trump is the kind of guy, we've seen him do it, that when people cry out to him, when people make a case to him, he very much wants to play the white knight. He very much likes the accolades and the, in his own mind, the moral high ground of trying to free people who are being persecuted. And so if it were any other president, I wouldn't have had a complete problem at all with what Tom Wood says. But I do believe that Donald Trump did. I think Donald Trump saw the images and saw the cries from people inside of Iran. I think that's exactly the catnip he cannot fail to go after. That's where I think he is slightly not like the owned and bought deep state candidates. His ego is such that if he can convince himself that by doing these kinds of things in Venezuela or in Iran, that I think he does believe that part of what he's doing, maybe not the main part, but part of it is you ask, what right do we have? I think in his mind that saving and helping to those people throw out these thugs that have been over them for almost 50 years now. And I think he does believe that. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a great quality of his, but he loves the attention. He's forever whoring after the Nobel Peace Prize, right? He said multiple times that, I've done bad things in my life, and if I can do something to end wars and do things like this, it's going to get me into heaven. And I think he does think, right, that, and I think this is a logical assumption, that the mullahs were not going to stop until they had until the weapons that nobody could stop them for. And I think he's convinced himself that by doing these things, he's stopping war. You could call that outrageous, but I think he believes he's stopping wars by using power like this. And the question is, in some cases, he might be right. Not so necessarily with Venezuela, but I think of all the places he could have done this, the one place that it would have been it's a lot easy to do it because of their own behavior is when you're dealing with the mullahs.
Right. We've been stopping perceived attacks that we think are going to happen for like 50 years. And so we've been very, very busy out in the world. But it's very interesting because when you were talking, I was thinking, who hit first? Israel, right? Israel hit Iran. Iran did not hit Israel. So when Rubio got up to say, well, we had to go in because they were going to hit us next. And so we had to go in and we have to do this campaign, which might last as long as the fake Ukrainian war. Who knows? The Russia versus Ukraine. But I'm looking at the situation, and just from the onset, how in the world, how can you say that that if Israel strikes Iran, is Iran allowed to defend itself against Israel? If they're their own country, are they allowed to defend themselves or not? And I know a lot of lefties are asking this question, but they're asking it for a totally different reason than I am. I'm asking it for what actually just happened and took place, because we're acting like they were threatening that they were going to nuke us right now and that we had to go over and do this thing before they nuked us. But that's not really what they're saying, because no one's really identifying that kind of, they're insinuating it, but they're not really saying that. So Israel struck them. So how are we justifying this then?
Well, first of all, nobody's saying they were going to nuke us. They don't have a bomb. This is about not letting them get one, number one. And if I were Israel, over and above the problems that libertarians and even you have with the country of Israel. If I were Israel, the safest, the thing that they could do to guarantee relative peace, not just in between Iran and Israel, but everybody else in the Middle East, would be for something to make the Iranian thugs go away. And I think that is a calculus. Right. I mean, if I was the president of Israel or the prime minister, the biggest problem you have, and really maybe the only one, I mean, because many of these other countries in the Middle East are not complaining, and some of them are overtly supporting this. And since typical Iran, their response was to send missiles into other Arab countries to try to get us, right? And so already the Saudis have said, we will not let this go unpunished, right? And so it seems like that much of the Middle East is beginning to coalesce around a new world in the Middle East where we may not have to like each other, but we can make money off each other and we can be peaceful. And the one thing that is massively standing in the way of that is Iran. And so I understand what the Jews are thinking, but the thing that is hard to get around, and you pointed this out, it's not, and this is the way it's being presented. I think I agree with you 100%. As, oh shucks, we just found out that Israel's going to do this, so we better jump on board. No, the whole thing has been coordinated, right? But even that, Kate, what do you? I mean, we gotta deal with reality. And for a month now, more than a month, a couple of months, they've been in high-level talks trying to talk, the Americans anyway, trying to talk the mullahs back off from the ledge. And whether or not they have that the moral high ground to do it, that was a major thing. They spent months trying to get them to understand that the consequences of not demonstrating to the world that you're going to abandon this crazy notion, this suicidal notion that you're going to become a nuclear power. And I repeat again,
they have been becoming that power for 45 years, though.
Yeah, but 45 years ago and 25 years ago, their ability to process is never. I mean, what happened last year with the bombing? What they took out was pretty significant. The underground tunnels, the things that they were able to at least temporarily slow them down. Those were real things, right? And what did they immediately, if what was going on in those mountains, the Iranians, if it was nothing but just for, it was Potemkin, it was just to make us worry, well, then why would they immediately after we destroyed it start putting it back? That tells you something, right? That what was going on was not a sham. It was not a red herring. There was something there, and they were trying to build it back. And when, again, Western powers, and that wasn't just us, other Western countries, trying to talk them off the ledge, if you can't, in the face of this firepower, if you can't even concede, even for the short term, that you will accept these terms, that you will, and you defy that, what I said 5 minutes ago is true. This is the one country in the world right now that you're going to have a hard fine dragging any kind of empathy for these people, any kind of sense that they are not complicit in their own destruction. And I already explained why North Korea is probably off the block, but I'm telling you, there is much more sympathy for what happened against Maduro, if you have sympathy, but not this. These guys are just, they look this way. Donald Trump could not have paid them enough money to make them look this bad. Now, this is what I want to hear from you, because we're running out of time. You said something very provocative, and I think your listeners need to hear it. I need to hear it. And it's this. I'm suggesting that the Iranians actually provided complete cover for this attack because of their attitude. You said earlier that we own Iran. Maybe that's the point. Tell me what you mean by that.
Okay. When you go back and you really look at the Shah and Khomeini going in, the media and the CIA did a huge campaign against the Shah to put in Khomeini, their guy. I've also done a huge show on the MEK that works in Iran that is also owned by the CIA. And I did a whole hour on that. I'm pretty sure I did half hour, an hour on that, kind of describing how and why I thought that. And I think that even since the Shah, we never ever lost our power there. And I think that we have been in charge of them being a boogeyman for the last 60 years. I don't think and that's why I played the reel coming in. That goes back, those newscasts. Oh, they're going to get a nuke. Oh, they're going to get a nuke. In fact, one show I did, I did all the headlines from each, I think 5 years or so, where I said, look, every headline going back to the 70s, they're going to get these things. They're going to get these things. And over and over and over again, always telling us that they were the boogeyman. Same thing with Russia. Russia's always the boogeyman. I actually think we own Russia. I think once Russia became part of the World Bank, and a lot of this is about banking and money and profit and war profit and structure profit, that it is mostly about creating boogeymans and making sure that we can take freedom here based on the boogeyman we present in the press. And this is why the script has been over and over and over again. They've used the same script in Iraq, the same script in Libya, the same script in Syria. It just keeps going on. We're always saving people from human rights, although we pick and choose which human rights to value, which is really odd because there's a lot of countries out there that we just ignore and for their human rights, but we pick and choose the human right. That's why I agree with Tom Woods when he said, this is not about freeing the Iranian people. This is about territory. It's about resources. It's about a bigger plan for territory. And there is a Greater Zion plan. It's been in the works since the 40s, and it was to absorb a lot of the land, but justify doing so around Israel and creating a larger piece of land there. Same reason that they wanted to go in and put Genie oil that Cheney owned into a part of Syria. They wanted to take the top part of Syria, and Syria fought back. And then what they do, Obama told us Syria was Assad was a madman and he was gassing his people. Although we did find out that was a complete and utter lie. Assad really hasn't been seen since. No one ever asks about it, which is very odd. And he sort of disappeared. Everybody said he went to Russia. He totally disappeared off the planet. And they wanted that territory. They wanted it for where it's placed in the Middle East. They wanted that territory. So I think this is a long game plan of having to have boogeymen. And I'm not saying, again, that I want to live in Iran, okay, or under their religion or under their ideology. I don't like their ideology. I'm a Christian. That would not work for me. But at the same time, I'm looking at all the pieces being played, and I think that we have owned them since the Shah. The CIA doesn't go in and put in and create circumstances for who gets to run a country and then suddenly lose it and then suddenly act like they are the biggest threat on the block. I don't understand how that could even happen. They have power in who's running the country. And I think that that they did the changes that they did and went under a harsher regime for a reason. Because after the Shah, when Iran was sort of flourishing financially, and things were going pretty well, they put in Khomeini. They did a lambast against the Shah, saying he was the oppressor. They put in Khomeini for a harsher rule, but I think they did that on purpose because they had to make the bad guy even worse. I'm not saying the reality of that isn't true. I'm just saying that because it was worse for the people there, but we're in control of that happening. So yeah.
But so what you're saying is that America owns the deep state, particularly in America, owns Iran.
There isn't anyone we don't own.
and they own Hamas. So we are selling our soul to Israel and then turning around and having Iran and Hamas persecute Israel.
Ron Paul said it very eloquently. He said Israel constructed Hamas so that they would have a bad guy to work off of, so that they could request more money, so that they could get more money for defense. Yeah.
But if we own Iran, it's Iran who's backing them financially and with weapons. So here's my problem. It seems like a circular firing squad. Okay, so we own Iran, or the deep staters own Iran, and they, as you say, Israel created Hamas, right? And then the Americans and the globalists are actually arming and flooding money into Hamas, which then turns around and attacks Israel. And so why is Israel coming after Iran if America owns it? If the right, you see, that's where it becomes hard for me to see, right? So if Hamas is an invention of Israel,
doesn't mean they're not real. It just means who's controlling them, kind of like ISIS. We invented ISIS, and we controlled ISIS.
Are you saying that Israel basically paid and equipped Israel to kill Jews in October 8th? Or are you?
Yeah.
So they did that to themselves.
Yeah. Same thing with 9/11. We did the same thing to our people for bigger and better agendas, right? So these bigger, huger agendas taking place. And I think that we definitely allowed the killing of our own people, just like in the Northwoods document, where it spells out from 1963, 62, how they wanted to kill Americans off to do what they wanted to do. They don't care. They don't care if their people are being killed. if it's a bigger purpose at hand. Yeah.
So I'm very glad to hear these things. I think that, you know, these are great conversations, but I ask this too. Then from the perspective you're coming from, why now? Why now? Because you asked that question earlier. Why now, all of a sudden, are they have the powers that be, the Israel, Hamas, the deep staters in America and globally? Why now are they orchestrating this?
They did it now because the same reason that I said back in 2022 they were going to put Trump in as president, the deep state, because they wanted war and all the things that come along with war. And a huge war budget, which we started out with, right? So they wanted war and they wanted digital ID. When you create enough chaos and you have enough boogeymen and you have enough things that are happening, okay, and you can create a tighter control on the people, with the people being very complacent and allowing it in the majority, because the majority in America really actually is pretty conservative. And if you can get people to think that whatever we do on the right is going to be right, then it's easy. The timing spells itself out beautifully right now, because now the timing speaks to, well, people are not fighting this. They're not even saying, they're actually just, yeah, do it. Go after whatever country we want and do it all under the guise of freeing people, because that's what people can buy into the most. Because right now, who's going to lead Iran? Has that been decided? Who's going to lead Iran?
It's been 72 hours.
I know, but I'm just saying, we rush the people. I mean, you can't even go a minute without a president in the United States. They're all chomping at the bit to be the president. So who's going to run it now? So all I'm saying is that we have been using and utilizing these things, and the script gets played out again and again and again, but we're not seeing it. For some reason, we always think, well, this time it must be because they were really going to do something, or we're so justified, but it's not. So that's why I think, if anything, we could look in context and go back and say, what have all these things meant in the past? You know, what do they want? What are they gearing towards? And I'd have to say the absorption of territory. And I think that's where we're headed. We took over Iraq. I remember I had a Christian on from Iraq that lived in northern Iraq, and she said, "You guys all have it wrong in the press again." She goes, "You know what? Saddam treated Christians. He was a dictator, but he actually loved Christians, and he was trying to do things for Christians." So she said, as Christians, we felt that. And we lived in the north part of Iran or Iraq. And she goes, and your media totally told a different story. So she said, your media is constantly brainwashing you guys into thinking certain things are taking place over there that aren't taking place, and then utilizing those scripts, the same script over and over. It's always for human rights, always for human rights, always for human rights, over and over and over again. And then the countries are completely absorbed. So this is another one of those events. And the timing thing, the fact that Israel went in first should speak volumes right now. And when I'm talking about Israel, I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the government. I do not trust the government. I do not trust Netanyahu. I'm not talking about the Jewish people. But everybody wants to lump them into one. I don't. But this is more about what the governments are doing to further an agenda, and the agenda is Greater Zion. In the end of Greater Zion project, the U.S. and Israel get demonized together for taking part in certain things around that region and around the world, and we get demonized together. So it's kind of interesting what is involved in that plan. People should go look that up. They should kind of take a look at what the agenda is driving towards, just to understand what we're doing right now, what's happening right now.
So thank you. And so there's always a lot to learn when you talk.
Well, me too. I did want to hear what you had to say, because
no, I know.
And
you made your disclaimer. You made your disclaimer that, this is not anti-Israel.
Yeah, not at all.
Right? And you made the other one that you don't want to live in. So that was good. I want to make my disclaimer one more time at the end.
Okay.
I came into this conversation with your permission to take a stand that we're hearing why are most Republicans and apparently a majority of Americans support what happened. And I've tried to give arguments and situations and why that would be. I'm not sure I believe all of them myself, but as playing devil's advocate, I think,
I'm glad you did, actually.
Yeah, I think we fleshed out a lot on both sides of the argument.
Yeah, I think so too. And maybe it gives people some food for thought. There was a great article to end. I just want to say there was a great article kind of describing how they what they did to the Shah and how they moved Khomeini in and under what pretenses. And I think it's a really good one for people to read because I think it'll give you a huge amount of context. And it's called Iran and the Shah, What Really Happened. And it was written by the New American. And they did a pretty good job laying that out because if we don't think the CIA is involved in who becomes a leader of a country with our size and our power, they're kidding themselves. That's why I say it's owned. I think there's a lot of fake theater happening because it's owned. But what happens when all of this takes place? We end up losing liberty. People lose liberty. So there's always that's taking place. Look at 9/11, we lost liberty. Okay. So we have the Patriot Act, we have all of those things. So I think looking at it in context on how the CIA is operated throughout in Iran for decades and decades and decades is a really good place to start. It's at thenewamerican.com. It's the Iran and the Shah, What Really Happened. That will give people a great amount of context to what's happening today and how they maneuver, how the CIA tells a tale, what they do, and the way they do it. That is, I think, some of those are the biggest things to understand right now because they follow the same script over and over again. So, I just think there's a lot to learn about the context of why. And when it seems that we're the aggressor, we don't like to be the aggressor. And this is why we've had false flags going back 100 years, is because we do not want to look like the aggressor ever. We always have to look like we are, we're retaliating because something has happened where it's a threat to us or we've been attacked or the thought of attacking us. But they've never been able to prove those things. And so we have a lot of false flags bringing us into more war and bringing us into these situations, kind of like going into Ukraine-Russia war. Why were we involved in that too? No one can answer that. It's like, if it's between Ukraine and Russia, why are we in it? So that's why I say we own, because we're owning the conflicts, right? And that's truly how I feel after the research I've done. But I really appreciate you, Duke, coming on and voicing and being taking the job as the foil. I think that's a really tough job. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
I consider myself lucky. All I got called was a neocon today. Could have been lots of work. Could have been a lot worse.
I think it's great. And I do think you were voicing some of your opinions, which a lot of people are voicing right now. And I'm just here to say, after all the research I've done, I just do not believe that we don't own them. I really don't. I think the CIA is very good at brainwashing us into thinking that they're their own entity, and I don't think they are. But that's just me. Anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow, and you can call in tomorrow after today's show. After you listen to today's show, you might want to call in, and I'm fine with that. I think that's great. And just Susan is joining me tomorrow. Melissa's out, and then Peter Schweitzer's new book. That'll be an interesting conversation too on Thursday's live show. So I hope you join us here. But always a lot to talk about, and I appreciate Duke coming on and giving that side, because I knew he was going to, because there's two sides right now. Two sides of the people talking on the right that people need to understand both sides. And I do think that we are being heavily brainwashed into this one again. They always have to make it about human rights. Isn't that interesting? They did with North Korea for a whole entire decade of headlines. And people were actually mad at me on the air when I said North Korea is not a threat. They're not a threat. We could ace them off the map in 2 seconds. They're not a threat. But man, did the media for a solid decade act like they were coming to get us. So if that's the case, why are we still believing that narrative, right? Why are we still believing it? Why are we still going along with this narrative? And I do agree with Tom Woods that this is not about freeing anybody. This is about power and money. Straight up, power and money. Power, money, territory. I guess you could go with power, money, and territory. But I'll be back to talk about a little bit more tomorrow. And Really appreciate you guys. If I ever needed you to partake of the sponsors of the show, it would be now. It would be now. Please go get some cardiomiracle.com/Kate and try that drink. And it's been helping me so much. And it just delivers nutrients to your body, like in the best delivery system ever. So you're going to feel so good. cardiomiracle.com/Kate. You can try it. And also the other wonderful, wonderful sponsors that I have. Please go check them out. They're amazing. And be faithful, be fearless. And of course, I really appreciate all of you tuning in. And I really do. And I really appreciate the support that I get, because I'm not owned media and I get to say what I want. And that's a pretty big deal these days, because media like me doesn't survive. And we're pretty close to not surviving, to be honest with you. So yes, please go and help the show. Go and take part in the sponsors, because that helps me stay on the air and you get something for it, or donate to the show. But yeah, we run the risk right now of losing this platform, and I don't want them to win. Media owns 99% of the talk show hosts, and I'm not one of them, and I want to stay here and do what I'm doing because I believe in truth, and I believe in freedom, and I believe in liberty, and I love this country. We have a great country. We just need to get back to our Constitution is all, right? That's what we need. So, all right, you guys, thank you for listening. Be faithful, be fearless. Find out why I say that on the website, katedalleyradio.com. Go to katetalks.myshopify.com and go get the ebooks. Support the show that way and share those ebooks. The one on cancer is amazing. The one on cancer without chemo is amazing. Please, it's everything you need to know if you have a loved one that gets cancer. You need this ebook. This ebook is huge, and it answers all those questions. What products do you do? What's been proven? How do I go about this when I get this diagnosis, right? How do I go about this? It's everything you need to know. katetalks.myshopify.com. katetalks.myshopify.com. Go grab it. It's $10. It's so worth it. And put it on your computer. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate you. I'm out. See you tomorrow.